the Know Your Gear podcast. Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast. How you guys all doing? Hopefully you can see me fine. If not, let me know. New software today. So, always good time when the software changes. Okay, so anyways, we have a lot today. Today's got a lot of cool things going on. I plan to have a good time. Hopefully you'll come along for the ride because I've been having it's a fun week. A lot of crazy stuff to talk about. Plus you guys will have subjects and questions for me, which I appreciate. What else? There's something else. Announcements. That's pretty much it. Other than just always want to say thank you to the moderators for keeping the flow going and helping the channel, every week. A lot of stuff, a lot of comments and stuff. And that's a good time to remind me that I'm going to pull up my WhatsApp page in case I need it for the moderators. Okay, so we have some gear of the week, so to speak, and we have some cool topics. What did I want to start with? I actually want to start with one of my own topics real quick. Something happened this week that I thought was really interesting, and it's because it's happened so many times. And what I want to look at is, I want to look at something to see if, there it is. Okay, I'm going to pull this up and then I'll share it with you. Mint, excellent, very good, good, fair, poor, non-functioning. Yeah, nothing like this. Okay, so something came up. Let me share with the web. So I was on Reverb this week and something happened. So here's the Reverb page. And this keeps happening to me, and I wanted to share it with you guys. So under conditions, they have mint, excellent, very good, good, fair, non-functioning, and other conditions, right? Okay, brand new and B stock. Okay, so that's for the retailers. The reason why I brought this up is I think that Reverb needs a new condition, okay? And actually, my wife gave the suggestion. She was saying salvage, like a salvage title on a car. That was her suggestion. It needs a salvage. I would say refurb would also work too. Here's why. I want to know how many times this has happened to you guys, because it's happened to me a lot. So I'm kind of scrolling through Reverb, looking at stuff, dreaming of guitars that I don't need, but always looking anyways. And oh, somebody says the audio is out of sync. Let's see. Hold on a second, because we might have to. Anyone else seeing it out of sync? Because remember, I don't see it in real time. I see it. It's a nudge off. Okay. So let me. The new software. Let's see. Duration. Want to see that? Hold on a second. I forget where it's at. It's in your properties. We're going to have to go with it today, slightly out of sync. What's causing it out of sync, so you guys know, is there's a delay. The time from the audio and the video time is slightly off, and you have to kind of sync it back up. The problem is that the OBS got a new version, and in there it's not synced correctly. It's going to be slightly out. And let's see if I can do it here. If it'll let me change it in real time. It doesn't. I don't see where it actually lets me change it in real time. Hold on, just for a second. Stream, general. Nope. Cancel. All right. So today it will just be slightly out. But anyways, the reason why I want to talk about this is this. Let me share with you guys. So I'm on Reverb and I see a guitar like this. Okay. And to your left, here you have a Gibson. It's a 2013 Ebony ES339. He wanted 28, right? $2,800. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he's got it on sale for $655 off, $2,155 plus $55 shipping. So we're talking $2,200. So I'm like, $2,200. And I'm like, oh, that's a good deal. I don't know if that's a great deal. The market's always in fluctuation right now. So I'm like, $2,200. I don't need an ES339, but I actually thought of a friend of mine. I'm like, oh, that'd be something cool to send him. And then I go into the auction, and this is the picture you see. And I'm like, okay, so the neck is cracked. And, I didn't read the description. They're always the same. It's been, headstock's been repaired. And, this is what I keep seeing, like damaged guitars, and they're listed, and I'm always like, oh, that's kind of a deal, right? That's kind of a deal until you see that and you go, okay, that's not $2,300. I don't think is fair for that in that condition, in my opinion, or at least I don't want it in that condition. And then I was telling my wife about this, and I'm like, yeah, it's almost like, what condition do you list that under? I mean, I would say poor, but then that's the only issue on the guitar. And then that's when she said, what about salvage or heavy repair, right? Being repaired, right? Or repaired, or what's the other one? Refinished, although that hasn't been refinished. And then I was like, it's kind of funny that it keeps coming up, and not just Gibson. So I saw an Ibanez, and I was looking at it, and it was like, wow, that looks like a good deal. It was $1,800. I was like, $1,800, that's a pretty good deal. Not great, but kind of like I'd like to, I'd be a buyer at 16. I open it up, and it's got a giant chunk, like I'm missing a piece of the guitar. I'm like, all right, that's that guitar is worth nothing to me. It's not even worth, it's probably worth maybe $500-$600 to somebody or something to somebody, but to me it's worth nothing because I don't want a guitar that damaged. So I just thought it was an interesting topic to see what you guys thought of that. Yeah, Frank says, I avoid broken headstocks. I mean, if I had to get it. It's funny, as someone who's repaired a lot of headstocks on all kinds of guitars, Gibsons and Epiphones and just any kind of guitar with a tilted headstock. I mean, it's just going to be susceptible. To me, I would say, everybody was talking about Gibson headstocks being the most broken headstocks, but in my experience, it's mahogany necks versus maple necks, and mahogany necks with a 17-degree angle, an extreme angle, or 11-degree angle, just an extreme angle, are more likely than others, but it happens. But as someone who's repaired a lot of headstocks on all kinds of guitars, they're not likely to break again. It's possible, but it's not likely to. So if the repair's done well, it's going to last. And if the situation's right on the guitar, it's well. But to me, it devalues the crap out of the guitar. I mean, it's just massively huge devaluement, and makes it a great player, if anything. Like sometimes it's a free, not free, like, free cost guitars, like a free guitar, like you feel good. You can play it anywhere. Who cares? I mean, how many rock stars have we heard saying they have, like, I believe John Mayer has one, and I know Dimebag Darrell's had one a bunch, where the headstocks have been broken off. I think Korn also, the band Korn, said that a bunch of their headstocks have been broken off, re-glued on. I mean, I've seen tons of stories where touring musicians, rock stars, play guitars where the headstocks have been broken off and glued back on 2 or 3, 4 times. So it's not that I think those are bad and they shouldn't, those guitars are done. Those guitars are having a great life. In fact, if anything, they're a player's condition. Maybe, is that a player's condition, a headstock? That's really why I'm curious about this, because it was one of those things, like I thought it, and then I was thinking, but am I in touch with it? Is it player's condition? Is it refurb? Is it a salvage? I liked my wife's suggestion, salvage title. Like, this guitar has been salvaged, but it's like it's like a salvage title where the frame's been bent or something's been happened where it's like, nah, it's never gonna be the same again, but it's fine. It will work fine. So, yeah, hey, Matt says sometimes a headstock repair makes it better. I have actually heard musicians refer to broken headstock guitars as sounding better. I've had no experience with it myself, but it's like I said, I've repaired so many that, I mean, it's not the end. It's not the end of the guitar's life, that's for sure. A broken headstock repair, and a lot of times, is not even a difficult repair. So sometimes they get tricky, but a lot of times they're pretty straightforward and they can be fixed relatively easy, and they'll last forever. Fernando says neglected condition. Interesting. Let's see. Martin says, I'm still amazed that glue is strong enough to fix the headstock. The glue is stronger in most cases than the wood. Look, a lot of wood makers will tell you this. A lot of repair techs, a lot of luthiers will tell you this too. In my experience, that is relatively true. Like, and the glue work that I've done where it's come back broken again, because it does happen, it's very rarely I say that, but I'm trying to think of actually an instance where it broke at the glue again. I have never had it really break at the glue spot, the same crack again, unless maybe I didn't put enough glue and it didn't have enough. It wasn't 100% contact with every spot part, and maybe there was a gap in there, and the gap was where the weak spot was. So even then, it wouldn't be the glue. So yeah, glue is strong enough for sure, without a doubt. Christopher wants to know, hey Phil, happy holidays. Do you have, I have an itchy nose. I'm sorry about that, buddy. Says, do you have any suggestions for a single cut humbucker guitar? Yeah, all of them. Let's start with the most expensive. I think you should look at a $10,000 Murphy Lab. Start there. When I think of single cut humbucker guitars that I like, I'll start with three. I'll give you four in four different price points. Let me start with the most expensive, because that gives me time to kind of come up with the least expensive one. Most expensive one, I would say, and I'm going to keep it crazy expensive, but not super crazy like custom shop. I would say single cut, it's got to be a Gibson Les Paul. Like a Gibson in the $2,500 range. I like the Gibson Les Paul for that range for a single cut. PRS makes a great single cut, but I don't think, unless you look at the S2 stuff, they don't have anything in that range. But S2s are good too. So either one of those would be great. In my opinion, I like those guitars. I'm going to stick with the ones I like and own and play. In the next price point, we'll call that $1,000 price point. I'd probably say for me, PRS SE single cut, it's going to be less than $1,000, but around that point, really good. ESP LTDs too. Really like the Eclipse model, like an EC1000, about $1,000. I really like that guitar, single cut with humbuckers. Those are two really good guitars. I'm hoping people throw in other suggestions too, so I can kind of remember. Let's see. Then in the $500 price point, I would say for a single cut with humbuckers, guitars I've liked, I would say now Epiphone. That's good, right? I like a lot of the Epiphone price guitars in that price point. They're really nice. And then also, since we're on the top end of the $500 to $1,000 price, I say Sire for single cuts have been really impressive as well. For me, I really like them. Then when you get sub $500, I don't love all the Epiphone offerings, but there's a couple Epiphones, especially if you're looking used. $500 can get you a really nice single cut Epiphone guitar that's nice. And then also in that $500 range, that's what I'm talking about. Like E-Art guitars are really good. And then when we're talking sub $300 single cut guitars, that's probably going to be like Firefly or Harley Benton would be really good guitars. The thing about this question, which is, I say this all the time, but it's okay. It's part of the conversation of Guitar Talk on a Friday night, right? Is there's so much that it's not like it's not like, oh no, stay away from this, only buy this. Oh, somebody said the Schecter Solo. That's another great one. That's the whole point. Almost all of them have something to offer that are really good. So it's the suggestions are all about starting points. Here's stuff to look at. But man, I really like it. If I was going to buy a single cut double humbucker guitar that I truly love, sub 1,000. I know you didn't give me price points, but I'm just thinking sub $1,000. I would probably say the PRS SE. And the only reason I say that is because one of my favorite guitars is my Paul Reed Smith S2 single cut. It's absolutely one of my favorite guitars. And I'm into that for $700 because I got it in 2015, back when you can find deals on S2s like that. They were blowing them out and stuff. So, I mean, and so now at the same price point that guitar, new or used, you're not going to likely find a single cut S2 PRS for $700. But I could tell you this, part of the thing I like the S2 over the SE is it's built in the USA. And that's just, like I said, that's just a prideful thing. I'm American, so I'm like, oh, made in America, right? It's a thing. It's also it's a status symbol in your head more so than it's not like I'm walking down the street holding out my American made guitar going, look at this, ladies, got an American made guitar. It's not a fancy car. It's not that kind of showboating thing. It's more of an internal, like, I've talked about this many times, especially people my age kind of get it. You spend a large portion of your younger years aspiring to get these types of guitars. And so when you get there, it's kind of like I've arrived. It's like, I got it. So, and sometimes those things go away. As a young kid, everyone I knew, all the adults I knew, like having a Cadillac was such a huge deal. And now no one my age that I know wants a Cadillac or owns a Cadillac. And I'm not saying anything's wrong with the Cadillacs. I'm just saying it's not like a thing that's like you hear my friends going, one day I'm going to own a Cadillac. But I remember as a kid, everybody wanted to own a Cadillac. That's kind of how guitars work for me. It's like, one day I will own a Made in USA PRS guitar. And then when you get there, you realize, those other guitars, the SEs and the E-Arts and the other stuff is just as good. Probably, I always wonder if that's what happens if I got a Cadillac. I'd be in a nice Cadillac going, it's a Chevy. Get stuck with the Chevy, I'd be fine. Roger says, hey, why is an American-made Peavey Predator I bought for $98 in '94 not $2,000 today? They are not worth $2,000, but they are worth way more than they probably, I would never say deserve to be. But you gotta understand, the reality is, at one point, everything was pretty much made in the USA. So think about it, like just start with amps, okay? Crate amps. I have a Crate amp downstairs I was looking at. I have a 112 Crate Stealth tube amp that's made in the USA. It's worth nothing. During the COVID thing, they kind of boomed up a little bit, but it's a 50-watt 2-channel amp designed by Lee Jackson, made in the USA. Crate logo literally makes it almost worthless. When I say worthless, I mean a 50-watt 112 made in the USA amp designed by Lee Jackson with 2 channels and dual reverbs should command, more than, let's say, $200 or $250, $300 tops. The point is that Randall was made in the USA, all the lower line stuff, which Peavey was a lower line. Peavey was an affordable working musician's product. It was, you can't afford Fender, and so you got Peavey. And I know because my first real amp was, practice amp was a Peavey Rage, and I got it and I was like, oh, I actually have a distortion channel. And I think it had reverb too. I can't remember. And it had features. And it was because I couldn't afford a Marshall. I couldn't afford, the higher line stuff. So that's the thing with Peavey. And there's a lot of brands like that. Carvin, same thing. Look at Carvin. They have come up so much in price. I remember when you could buy an American-made Carvin used way back 5-6 years ago. Now, understand, I'm not saying 10, 20, 30 years ago. You could buy a Carvin for $300 5-6 years ago, without a doubt. The Delos that I like right there, you could find the Carvin version of that guitar. You could find it for a couple $100 everywhere for a while. Now they've inched up. Same thing with Peavey. It's inched up, but it's not going to be, it's relative to the Fender pricing, Gibson pricing, PRS pricing, and so on, right? Like the more premier brands that are made in USA. So the point is they have gone up, but they're not going to see the jump that everybody else sees. But so that's not entirely true because some Peavey stuff has gone up in value a lot. Part of the other problem with Peavey is, like Crate and Randall, it's kind of lost its way and it's gone. Right? I mean, those are not brands that you're seeing out there in the wild. New, first of all, they don't make Crate anymore, so that's easy to talk about. But Peavey is as a shell of what it used to be. It's weird, and I say that because no disrespect, because I like Peavey. As you know, Peavey Classic's one of my favorite line amps. The Peavey 5150, the 60505 now amp, right? Great amps. There's a lot of things I could say great about Peavey, but you gotta understand, Peavey at one time did everything. They made drums. They made some of the best basses in the market. The Cirrus basses were some of the best basses you could absolutely buy for any dollar. Peavey had the PA systems. They had recording equipment. I mean, you should go look if you're not old enough to remember the old Peavey catalogs and the massive amount. Peavey was a one-stop shop for a retailer. You could carry Peavey in your store and literally have almost every major product a customer would need walking in and satisfy that customer's need. It's like, I need a guitar, a drum set, an amp, a bass, a PA system. Right? Like literally they could supply everything and service all of those things. Peavey would service, like you could recone your speakers. You blew a Peavey speaker, you could fix it. It's almost like an insane thing to say today, fixing a speaker. Right? So they're not the same as what they were. It's not the same thing. Neither is Carvin, by the way, the Carvin side of Carvin. That audio section, the PA systems, the amps, that's not the same company that it was before. Things have changed with those guys. And the main reason that a lot of us believe it's that way now, Michael said, did Peavey make keyboards? I don't think they made keyboards, but I could be wrong. But I could be totally wrong. But the main thing is that you had companies that were making affordable stuff. And Peavey would do things like make the cabinets for their amps out of particle board versus birch or pine, save some money, right? They were saving money by materials, and unfortunately, the world changed, and then there was saving money by going to countries where cheaper labor was at, and maybe the laws are a little more lax on some of the protocols, like the environment and safety and stuff. And so that stuff easily started dominating. I always tell people with Peavey, I always like to remind my friends when we have a discussion about Peavey. Peavey is one of the last companies to go all in on the overseas thing, and that's how I think killed it. And again, Peavey's still around, but you understand when I say killed it, I mean from the iconic empire that it was to where it is now. I think what really hurt it was, everyone was building stuff overseas super cheap. You had Behringer now. Think of this. There was at one time there wasn't a Behringer stuff. If you wanted an affordable mixer, you went to Carvin or Peavey. And then Behringer came, and it was way cheaper. So there was a lot of that stuff. Obviously Line 6, all that stuff made in China. Slowly all the USA branded stuff, which is Crate, Randall, Peavey, they started going overseas too. And the problem is once you go overseas, well, then it's a brand exchange. What I mean by that is, if you had 3 amps, and I'm just asking, since there's 1,000 of you here hanging out, if you walk in a store and you see 3 identical amps made in one factory, and one says Peavey, one says Marshall, one says Fender, I mean, come on, right? It's at that point, the value proposition is like I'll buy a Marshall, or I'll buy the Fender, I'll buy the brand name. And so that's really where I noticed it. I was a Peavey dealer, so and I was at the tail end of Peavey really falling apart. I've said this before. When I became a Peavey dealer, we put in a large order. They couldn't even fill 90% of that order. They didn't have any product. And they would send us mismatched things. We would get like bass heads, but no cabinets. So we had nowhere to sell them. So we would put them in the back room of our store. They would sit there for 6 months. We had no way to sell them. We had nothing to put them on to sell them. So we got all these incomplete orders, and slowly over time, we'd start figuring out because they were discontinuing stuff left and right, and we were just not getting the stuff. Certain guitars would come in. We'd order. They told us we had to order. I can't remember. I'm just kind of, this is just for the story. I can't remember the number. Maybe it was like 16 guitars. You had to order 16 Peavey guitars. I was like, that's not a big buy-in. We could do that. And like 2 guitars would show up. and then they were like, we don't make guitars anymore, electric guitars. And it was crazy. But yeah, it's so back to your Peavey, why your Peavey is now super huge in value. It's because the brand doesn't hold its value anymore, but it has way more value. Like I said, I don't want to say that it should. That's not the right way to say that. It has way more value than a lot of other inexpensive things. Let me put it this way. Take a Peavey. Here's the question. You guys, it could be rhetorical, or some of you guys could put answers in the comment section. In 10 years, much less 20 years, what do you think's sitting on a wall? You go in think about the next generation going to a music store, and they see a Peavey T38, some Peavey USA made guitar from back in the 80s, even 90s, sitting on a wall, and a Harley Benton. Which one do you think is going to have more value? If you're going to bet, right? So that's my whole thing. I would imagine that even though Peavey doesn't hold the same value point as Fender and Gibson and those things, I don't think Firefly, Feasley, Harley Benton, I'm trying to name a lot so that no one feels like I'm picking on any one of those brands, but name all the brands that we see today as inexpensive, affordable brands. I don't think they're going to ever have the cachet that Peavey did. And then Peavey will be, Jason said, neither. You never know. You could be right, Jason. I mean, we're just throwing guesses on the wall to see, but it's crazy. So I don't know. Crazy. All right, let's go to something else. Let's go to a question Amanda grabbed real quick. This one came from Paul. Says, Phil, just heard from a repairer in Australia that he's had some of the Martin composite guitars having problems with delamination, maybe something to watch out for in humid conditions. No. Look, they make a lot of those guitars. I've worked on, I said it in that video, if you watch the recent video I did, the Martin, I've owned personally a couple of those guitars, and I'm a big fan of them. And I've repaired an insane amount of Martin guitars. The backpackers crack like crazy. Martin guitars, so like the mini Martin and the Martin backpacker and the X series with the solid top, where I live, it's brutal. Think about this. My room right now is 47%, and I've had a humidifier going 24/7 full blast for a week, and I can barely maintain 40% humidity in this room. Normally I don't humidify the room. It's just really dry here right now. It's just weird. It's the Arizona desert. So I've repaired a lot of Martins and Taylors, especially Martins, for cracks, for like I said in the video, those laminations, they can delaminate too in the extreme heat. I don't know about dryness. I've never seen the dryness come in, but the heat can move that material to the point where, everything's got a strength point, and it's just not designed to sit in a car that's 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It's just not. But my point to you is, if a repair person, first of all, think about repair people, and this is where I have a different perspective. Maybe this will help you, Paul. Remember, repair people only see broken shit. So that everything is a negative with them. The reason why you don't see it in me is because I sold it and I repaired it. I did both for a long time. That's usually not the case. It was very unique, that you'll see it with store owners that are like me. They were like, hey, I do the repairs here, and I do the ordering, and I do the sales in them. So as I would sell lots, and we sold a lot of stuff, as I would sell lots and I would repair lots, I got to see perspective of it. And then now having YouTube, it's just a weirder perspective to see it all in a mass market thing. They sell a lot of guitars. The amount of those laminate guitars that have issues are very few. So there are going to be problems. That's why I mentioned them in my video. I didn't think about this. The Guitar Center was nice enough to send that video out, the guitar out for the video so I could do that video for you guys. You think they really are excited about some of those comments I made in the video? Like, oh, by the way, here are the issues with the guitar. It can sink on the top. It can delaminate. It can do this. You have to think about this stuff. Here's the frets weren't polished correctly. Here's how you polish them. These are not ideal situations for them. And you can understand, if I don't have to mention something, I don't want to, because I only mention it because it's like, oh, this is important. It needs to be communicated. So I mention it. So in that case, like I said, those are the issues you'll see with those guitars. And you'll see it. And like you said, you're in Australia, same thing. The point that's really important to think of when it comes to those kind of materials is, whatever those materials do, wood would have done much worse. There's a lot of comments in that video that don't make a lot of sense, but that's okay. Like I tell my wife all the time, they get a D- for paying attention. I mentioned in that video that I would never claim that guitar is better than anything. I don't really make those kind of claims in my videos. I don't go, this is the best guitar ever. I just give you a realistic look at it and go, here's what it is, and here's what I like about it, and here's what I don't like about it, and here's what you should pay attention to, structurally speaking. That being said, a lot of people are like, for the same price, you can buy an all-solid guitar. Look, I have repaired so many guitars in my life that I still love it, but I gotta tell you, people don't understand. If you have an all solid instrument, all solid back and sides, they are not, they're not made like they were. They're just like electric guitars. A best example I ever realized, this is how I realized in life that things are weird. I had a customer come in one time, and he bought a Martin, not from us, but he bought a Martin, and it cracked. And he brought it in for repair. And he was very upset. Okay. And he was upset because he took it to I think it was Guitar Center sold to him, but I'm pretty sure I'm doing it off memory. But anyways, he got the guitar, and they told him it wasn't warranted because he didn't humidify it. He was honestly confused. Let me give you his backstory. So he'd been playing guitar, as a hobbyist, strumming chords on the back porch. Literally, in a second, you'll understand that. And he decided, he's going to buy a nice guitar. He found he's probably in his 30s. He's got his first real job, and he wants a nice guitar, so he bought a Martin. And what happened is he gets it, he plays it for a couple months, and then it just cracks, right? And so you understand, the seam down the center of the top cracks, but the brace had come free. It's disaster. It has to be cleated, has to be clamped, has to be fixed. I tell him, well, yeah, did you humidify it? Did you got to leave it in your case. He's looking at me like I'm insane because he says this. He goes, I grew up in Tucson, Arizona. My best friend's dad had a Martin, and we played that Martin all the time through high school, all the time, after high school. And he goes, and we left it on the porch outside. He's like, we never did anything to it. He goes, he goes, if I call my friend's dad right now and say humidifier, he's going to go, what the hell's that? And he's had a Martin now for like 30 years. And I said, yeah, but they don't make guitars the way they used to because the woods don't dry the way they used to. Things aren't the same as they used to. Things are different. And every time I bring this up, this always brings some kind of headache for me because a lot of people in the industry that watch the show are going to be like, they send me messages and they're like, Phil, let me explain how we dry the wood now. And I'm like, I get it. I've been to the factories, but I'm trying to tell you, I understand what people are saying. The guitars were a little bit more durable back then, or at least perceived to be. Or maybe it's because the good ones survive, and that's the ones you remember, not the ones that didn't, right? The ones that cracked in the 50s, maybe we didn't see in the 80s. So maybe that's the problem. But my point to the composite thing is that a composite guitar is about, for the most part, freedom to enjoy and play guitar anytime you want. As I think people sometimes they watch a video, and that's great. I love the feedback, just like here. I love all the feedback, but I want to give you perspective of where it comes from. Let me tell you a harsh reality that happens to people who are not hanging out on a Friday watching a guitar tech nerd. All of us talk guitar. They're not into it like we are, as nerdy as us, right? They don't need the measurements in a video. Those are the comments I see all the time in my videos. Like, why the hell are you taking time to measure things? Just play it. I just want to hear it for a second. I understand that too, but you understand that somebody buys a guitar and the neck moves and now the action's really high. They just stop playing it and then they stop playing guitar. It happens all the time. It's like they don't understand this concept. Oh, you take it in for a setup, you have it adjusted. So that's why I said, if you notice I have an affection for composite guitars, it's because repairing so many guitars, especially acoustics, I have a warm spot in my heart for the composites and how they ease the concept of making music, just making music. I understand they don't sound as good as wood. I've never claimed that. I'll never claim that. In fact, most of them are unbearable to listen to. And a lot of them aren't great. I really like that Martin one. That's just my thing. I didn't really say that in the video because it's like, that's not the point of the video. The video is just to do the deep dive and show you all the stuff. But I really like that guitar. To the point where I asked it if I could keep it. So you understand. So I liked it that much. But my point is that, yeah, you're going to have issues with those guitars just like in everything else. But I'm going to tell you percentage wise, I can tell you for a fact, they don't have nearly as much as wood guitars. And that doesn't make them better. It just means, it means that if that's your need, right? If you want to take your guitar, like if you want to take a guitar and throw it in your RV and tour the country, whatever country you're in, those composite guitars are going to take a lot of abuse, even if they're made of plastic. A lot of people seem to get upset with the word plastic. I understand. Like I said, I made jokes in the video. So for those that didn't see the video, you should go watch the video. The video, I made the joke that the guitar, the Martin, is made of Formica. It's like cheap countertops. Well, at least what we refer to as cheap countertops. And they had a Corian nut, so I was even making countertop jokes. But I understand they did something really interesting in that material, and the guitar sounds way better than it should. And that's absolutely, I think that's a best accurate way to explain that guitar. Somebody said it sounds horrible. Some people think it sounds good. Obviously, everybody's going to perceive it differently based on what you like and how your ear goes. But I will say this, that guitar sounds way, way better than it should. On paper, literally when you write down how they make that Martin guitar, it sounds like, not literally it sounds like playing, but it sounds like on paper, like the worst thing ever. And why would they even do it? I thought it was really crazy. But anyways, like I said, good. I like I said, thanks for the feedback. By the way, Paul, thank you for that too. But I'll just give you that's my 2 cents. I imagine the delamination. It's kind of like the Parker guitars. A famous guitar player said on a thread somewhere that a Parker guitar's frets popped off, and then all of a sudden, every Parker I see, somebody goes, "Oh, the frets pop off." And I'm like, dude, I've repaired so many Parker guitars. There are so many issues with Parker guitars. That is not an issue that's common. That is the rarest issue to have on a Parker guitar. And I've repaired. Okay, I can't say thousands, but so you know, there's not like tens of thousands of little guitars out there. I've repaired hundreds of Parkers. That's got to give me some credibility there. Hundreds of Parker guitars. I can tell you exactly what happens. The piezo systems, piezo systems, however you want to say it. Every time I say it, doesn't matter which way I say it, you're going to say it's wrong. They crap out all the time. The electronics are the weakest link in the Parker guitar. There's always issues with them. People sweat into them and it causes issues, or they just, over time. That's the thing you repair the most, the electronics on a Parker. The least common repairs on a Parker guitar are going to be frets popping off. That's probably the least common repair. The second least is delamination from the fretboard, where the fretboard lifts off the neck. That is not common, but that I've seen, that happens. And both those scenarios, by the way, with the frets and the delamination, have to do with the glue process not working correctly. So it's not like it went bad. It's something they shipped out. And that I only saw on the refined versions, never on the pre-refined. Not personally. I'd never seen the pre-refines act up like that. But I think it's because they just had a different process and they were took a little bit more time and care on making sure the glues are right. But if you have ever worked with those kind of glues that they make those Parkers with, you'll know that you can get a bad batch of the glue. It's not even their fault in the shop. You can get bad batches of those epoxies where they don't work right with each other and they can have it act up. So I've dealt with all that stuff. So like I said, that's just my insight, because I am a repair person, it is a repair channel, but I just want to point out sometimes the repair guys seem to be a little bit more upset about everything. And it's because, like I said, if you're going to repair, everything is a negative, because everything you see is a negative. Everything is broken. So you can imagine if I was a Fender warranty center, I'd probably tell you, which I was, all Fenders are broken and they're bad. But I've seen the goods and the bads, and it's the percentages we care about. All right, next subject. I kind of went too long on that one. Let's do something fun again. Anytime we want to have a little fun, let's do a giveaway. If this will work. All right, we have a giveaway. This one's funny. I love this. I'm going to steal this for Dave. Do I not have the pedal? I don't have the pedal. Hold on a second. All right, I wasn't prepared. Now I'm prepared. All right, so I got to have something to give away. All right, the first winner we have today is Dave. Here's why I love what Dave sent. Dave sent a picture of himself with an elf hat, and he took the Know Your Gear guitar logo V, made it into a Christmas tree. I thought that was awesome. We need to steal that idea. That's pretty cool. I like doing the themed logos for the holidays on the Instagrams and stuff. That was pretty cool. So thank you, Dave. That made me happy, because I mean, sure, you and your hat playing guitar, that's great. I did appreciate that. But the logo I thought was really, really cool. So Dave, what are you getting? You're getting a Nichols 1966 pedal from Dane Electro. It's an overdrive and a fuzz. Again, we want to thank the people at Dane Electro for giving us, they gave us like 24 of these to give away at $200 a whack, retail. So very cool of them to do that. And I just want to thank them for giving these to us, and also for you guys doing all the fun stuff. So I thought I'd share that with you. So congratulations, Dave. Enjoy that. And then we'll go to another subject. We have Antique Rocker says, I purchased an eArt headless for travel. So the eArt guitar that's headless, due to your review. Okay, now I want to upgrade it with coil split pickups, easier install, push-pull pots. So he's saying, what's easier to do, the push-pull pots or the 5-way switch? Technically, like work-wise, push-pull pots and 5-way switch is just soldering. There's nothing really easier about any one of those switches. But in my experience, it depends on how good you are at reading these schematics. To me, a wiring schematic for a guitar is a very basic schematic. If you look at them, I'm not saying you personally, Antique Rocker, but anybody looks at them and thinks they're a little complicated, just understand these are really basic schematics, and anything that's new to you is going to look a little complicated, but they're not. They're super easy, color-coded. In my experience, the push-pull pot wiring schematic is so easy. It's a really kind of as simple as, you're just connecting the two wires together, and you're going to put that onto something that can ground out in the switch, and that's pretty straightforward. Where the 5-way gives you way more options, but you need to be a little bit more savvy with how the switch goes. So I prefer push-pull pots because the reason is because when I throw a switch, it's kind of violent. If you watch me in videos, it's like I don't like aim, I just kind of hit it. It's like go to the neck, go to the bridge, and I kind of want to like be that way. And if you notice, like on my my Delos, it has a 3-way switch that's a blade switch, and same thing, throw to neck, throw to back to bridge, and then I have a little toggle instead of a push pull. I just like, like I said, I like to just not worry about kind of nailing the 4th position or the 3rd position or the 2nd position on a switch. So that's just my personal thing. But I would do whatever you think you want the most, but I would just be aware that the 5-way is a little bit more difficult for some people to wire up. And that's it. And he says, what pickups do you recommend? On that guitar, you know what I would do? I would go a little aggressive. So maybe like a JB 59 or maybe the Tone Zone and Air Norton kind of vibe or something like that. Not super aggressive. I mean, that's just, I can't answer questions like that. Like, what do I think you should do? It's like asking me like, what color looks good on you? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you look like. I don't know what you, but so I always just kind of say, this is what I like. And this is what I would do on that guitar. That's what I would put in those guitars is one of the 2 of those sets, one of each, Seymour Duncan or DiMarzio. Or if you have a preference of brand, then find the likely, like if you like Bare Knuckle, then find their versions of that. But I like the bridge in that guitar to be a little bit more aggressive and the neck a little bit softer and sweeter. And those pickups will do that for sure. GM, like the car company, says, glad to watch you live. Hey, thank you. Desperate cry for help. Okay. He goes, I hate my job. All right. This is going a different way than just guitar talk. He says, do you offer lessons on how to start your own channel or get involved in guitar business? Question number 2. Okay, let's start with the first question. So starting your own YouTube channel. First of all, the odds of you making enough on a YouTube channel to pay any kind of real bills is, I wouldn't say it's the same as winning the lottery, but I just got to tell you, just so you know, I don't see this as a super, obviously I'm not like an influencer with 1 million subscribers kind of thing, but just to get to whatever the hell I've pulled off, I'm giving you Google Analytics. They're like, this is 1 in 2 million. So that's already crazy. So the reason I tell you that is I'm going to give you, don't worry, I start with the negatives, I'll end with the positives. It's just because I want to scare you and then I'll give you some hope. Okay. So if you want to start a YouTube channel or whatever your social media thing is, because you feel you have a voice or something to offer the world, which is how most of these channels started. Okay. Now remember, different generationally channels are, different times throughout YouTube. When I started YouTube, they were paying YouTubers. You mean YouTube. So keep in mind, when Rob Chapman started YouTube, they didn't pay YouTubers. Nobody got paid for making YouTube content when the generation of guitar channels before me started. When Fluff started, when those guys started, they didn't get paid. There was nobody paid YouTube. No, YouTube didn't pay anybody. When I started, I didn't know people got paid. Like I had no clue. I've talked about this with my patrons in detail. It took 2 years, just so you know, this is absolutely true. It took 2 years from when YouTube tried to pay me for AdSense to when I got paid, because my wife and I thought that was a scam. We thought they thought it was a scam. Who would get paid on YouTube? So I only got paid on YouTube because my wife, after 2 years, AdSense said, I'll just tell you so you guys know, said I had $1,500 in an account, which is a lot of money to not get. So my wife set up like a whole other account at the bank, set up everything and had it isolated from us, and finally gave that information to Google to deposit the $1,500, because we were like, there's a 50-50 chance this could be fake, because that right now sounds probably crazy to you guys, maybe some of you, but understand, like, we're talking 2015. So 2015, I didn't know YouTube paid anybody. So the point I'm trying to say is, a lot of the channels that are somewhat successful or successful on YouTube, you understand, they didn't even know, like me, I didn't even know this is a thing you could do for a living. So I got to tell you, the amount of work I put into it, it worked for me. The reason I tell you that is because, let's fast forward to this now where we are now. You can make YouTube, you could make $10,000, you could make 10 cents. And there is no, once you make $10,000, then you make $10,000. I literally can make $20 on a video, and I can make $2,000 on a video. And it is as random as I'll get out. And because of strategies and stuff, I can, make it all work. But my point is you want to be aware of that going in. Okay, that's the negatives. Here's the positives. I really will tell you this. If you don't do this because you love it, you won't last anyways. It just won't work unless you not in the guitar community. It's just not that kind of community. So, I mean, maybe you can do it on TikTok and, do the latest dance craze. I can't tell you, but on YouTube, if you don't do this because you love it, even when you love it, you got 20% of the viewership is saying that you're doing it because you don't love it, right? So, I mean, you can imagine if you don't love it, it really sticks out to people. So I would say do it because you love it. And that's the best part. The next part is if you want to, you're talking about lessons on how to do this. I wouldn't give lessons. We talked about this before. We meaning my wife and Sean and I, we had these communications about like helping smaller channels that need help. I would have to be honest with you and say you'd have to be at a certain point that I could help you. And at that point, maybe I could figure out some kind of consulting thing. But I would say, here's the good news. I remember I told you I know good news. If you hate your job, then maybe when you're not at work, maybe making some content and see if you have a fresh voice to give and see if you have something to say, or have some fun. And remember, you don't have to do a technical channel. My channel's technical, but there's guitar channels that just make jokes. I mean, there's so, I mean, not everyone reacts the same way. There's as many people like this channel. There's twice as many people hate this channel because they watch it and they think the geeky section is just boring and stupid. So you just find your spot. You do have fun with it, and then hopefully something will come of it. That's my advice, and I don't feel like it's great advice, but I mean, I got to tell you just because it's tough. The other thing, and because I said on a happy note, here's the happy note. The happy note is you don't have to have a lot of subscribers. You don't have to do very well to make something that's a decent living on this channel. And that's where I said that you have to figure out what that is for you. So, all right. The second part of his question is, which is guitar stuff. He says, PRS SE Swamp Ash Special or Tajima T-Style? Oh, I like the Tajima stuff a lot. I would pick the PRS Swamp Ash Special versus a Tajima T-Style guitar. Me personally, and I've played both and I like both. I like Tajima a lot. But I personally like the PRS SE a little bit more. For no particular reason. There's no thing. I'd like to get myself hands on some more Tajima stuff, but maybe I'll have to buy some for 2025 and put some deep dives out for it. Grumpy Mike Guitar said, just want to wish you and Shauna, the whole fam, a very Merry Christmas, as well as a entire KYG family. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Merry Christmas to you back. And where are we at? We're time. Let's do Gear of the Week. I don't have a fancy Gear of the Week logo or anything because I have a new OBS software version and things aren't where they're supposed to be. And you know what? I'm going to clean that out. Okay. All right, so good gear of the week this week is a fun story. So here's how the story goes. I put a video on the second channel. If you don't know, I have a second channel, and if you want, there's a link to that channel down below. You can click to it if you want to subscribe. What goes on there is clips of this show and then some other stuff and then some light reviews. And sometimes it's repurposed Patreon content. So I'll give patrons content, and if they like it, I leave it on Patreon. And if they didn't really care for it, I throw it on, the second channel and stuff. I don't know, just for fun. So it's all kinds of stuff like that. So anyways, I gotta move this out of my way. Okay, so I did a video and this guy made me laugh. I don't know why this particular troll made me laugh. So there's two things that are gonna I gotta tell you. One, I only see comments if you're a subscriber. I just use a filter. It says subscribed, and it's because I'm trying to answer to the people that care about the channel the most. That's if I do get time to answer some questions or respond to comments, I try to respond to the people that champion what you do the most, right? I'll tell you, we don't even need to go into it. That's why I do it. I just do it. Okay. So, the other thing that's funny was this guy who's a subscriber put this comment that made me laugh. I mentioned in that video while I was reviewing another pedal that it's like this other pedal, and that other pedal is one of my favorite pedals, or I love that pedal, is basically said. I actually think I said something to the effect of, I really wanted that pedal for a long time, and I finally got one. I really liked it, and this is why I liked it. And his comment was, that is the worst pedal ever made. Now, this is why I laughed. I'm like, ever made? Like it's the worst pedal ever made? And I know it's a weird pedal. Okay, so I'm going to do something fun. We're going to actually have fun. Okay, so I'm going to play the pedal, then we're going to discuss it, because it's going to actually, instead of just showing you gear, we're going to talk about it because it's so funny. So this pedal that you're about to hear is the worst pedal ever made, right? Which I thought, wouldn't it be so obvious? Okay, so I will play. Let me get a guitar. I will play to a drum thing. I'm running my Engel Steve Morris amp into the 112 cabinet. I gotta spin around with my cable. I'm playing my Gibson, because I'll tell you about that in a minute too. Okay, so I'll play the pedal. It's a distortion pedal. That should be important. It's a distortion pedal, but what you're about to hear is the worst pedal ever made. Now, I seem like I'm hamming this up just because it made me laugh, because I'm like, there's so many things to say. It's like, I go, this guy must really hate this pedal. All right. And also, I want to set the expectation. So let me go ahead. All right. Do I not have sound? It is the worst pedal, because now I have no sound. Did something happen? There you go. There we go. All right. Let's do this. This is a clean. Right? You got clean sound. Let's go ahead and we're going to hear the worst pedal ever made on distortion. Here we go. Okay, so that worst pedal ever made. Now I'm going to add some delay to it, and I'm going to show it to you. Here's the worst pedal ever made, then we'll talk about it. Here we go. So that is the worst pedal ever made with delay. Same drum track. Here we go. So let's take this off. I'll leave it in this screen for a second. Put this away. All right. So when I was showing the Blues Breaker pedal on the other channel, I said, oh, I always like the Shredmaster. And somebody said, that's the worst pedal ever made. And I was like, really? So here's what's funny. I bought one. That's as soon as I saw that, I go, well, you know what? Then I need to buy one. It's been a while. Maybe I don't remember it. And so I bought it. And here's what's funny. So I got it. And then, cause I told you guys when I did the Blues Breaker, there are really good deals right now on these pedals. So, they were like $280 as the reissues. And now I'm finding them for like $150, $120, $140, significantly less. So I buy the Super Distortion. It shows up. And I get out of the box and I'm like, man, I can't believe I bought this pedal. Right? So I plug into it and I go, oh, this is great. I'm like, why don't I don't remember it even being this good. I like it. So, so just for the reference, I like it. I'm not saying it's the best pedal ever made, but I would say if I was going to say worst pedal ever, it's like 4 ticks above the worst pedal ever made. So I thought it'd be fun gear of the week. One, to share the pedal. I just really wanted to share the pedal with you, but so I thought that was funny. So there you go. That is the Shredmaster. As you can see, I think the key to the Shredmaster, and I've always kind of known this when I had one for a while, it's just don't put the gain on 10. It gets too fuzzy, and it has a weird EQ, like a parametric mid control, kind of like a metal zone. And I kind of see, if you see it, it's hard to see my settings. So let me give them to you. My gain is at about 9 o'clock. Right? Nope. Sorry. My gain is at 3 o'clock. That'll help. The bass is at 1 o'clock. The parametric mid, or whatever they call the contour switch, is at 12 o'clock. My treble is at about 2 o'clock. And then the volume doesn't matter. That's just particular how your guitar rig's set up. But that's where I'm going for controls. But yeah, I really like it. It sounded way better than I remembered. And I was really just getting it because, like I said, the guy's like, worst pedal ever. I'm like, I need to find out. I need to know if it's the worst pedal ever. I remember having one and not thinking much of it, but now I know. So that's how I got. So the funny part of the story is I got tricked in. Maybe he works for Marshall and he was like reverse psychology. And he was like, I can get this guy to buy a pedal. It's like, I'll just tell him it's the worst pedal ever. So I feel like that was the most YouTube-y community, thing I ever read. It's like worst ever. I'm like, worst ever. It's like anytime somebody says best ever or worst ever, it's like, I'll have to tone that down or tone that up a little bit. Brian says now these will be out of stock everywhere. There's probably not that many. They're blowing that stuff out. I saw you could get the Drive Master, which is the same as the Governor. I saw one for as low as $108 new on Reverb. So very, very cool. Very fun. So that's a gear of the week is the Shredmaster by Marshall. Worst pedal ever. So it's kind of funny. Or maybe not. All right, let's go into subjects. We have PW who says, hey, I'm trying to talk myself out of buying a very old guitar. Okay, 1840. This isn't the crowd I should hang with when I'm trying to stifle my gas. Yes. Yeah. No, the answer, we always say buy it. Justin Mabe, what's up, Justin? How's it going, buddy? He says, hope everyone is rocking Christmas. Thank you for the giant super chat, Justin. I appreciate that. And Mukbang Fatty, wow, I haven't seen you in a while either. He says, is it okay to plug a speaker output of my Joyo Tweed band amp into an instrument jack of my Volts 2 audio interface? No, you don't want to send a powered signal into the interface. Well, it's not going to sound good, but also you can damage the interface. I don't know how. I don't know because I don't have an experience of what the damage will be or how bad it could be or whatever. I mean, it's not going to explode or set fire, but it's not good, and it's not intended to do that. So on the Joyo Tweed, I thought, hold on, give me a second. Let's see if we can help you out. So let's here's an amp. Let's pull it up. We found one on Musician's Friend. Hopefully they will let us see the backside of water for those Disney fans out there. Okay, I'll share with you guys. Webpage. Here we go. What do we have? We have speaker out. So you don't want to put it there. Foot switch, phones. Oh, you know what? You can use, okay, so here's what you can use to send out if you want to. Again, I'm not gonna say it's gonna sound great. You could use the phone jack. You might have to use some kind of adapter because it's going to be stereo to mono. A lot of time these amps, though, I don't see it written here, but a lot of time these amps are set up so where if you stick a stereo cable into it, it's headphones, and if you stick a mono, it's a line out. I don't know if Joyo did that on this amp, but that is a common thing that amp companies do, so check that. The other thing you can do is you can use the effects loop. So you can send signal out of here. So this is the send. I know, so that you would plug the cable into the send into your interface. You could send signal out of the amp into it that way. Those are your two choices that I would follow, and hopefully that works. But that, yeah, definitely don't use the speaker out. Phil, hey, it's like me, says, hey, thanks for sharing some of your vast knowledge in entertaining ways. Yeah, thanks for calling it vast knowledge, but at least I'll take the entertaining comment. I like that very much. Thank you. Vim69 says, hey, Phil, I really like Billy Duffy. Me too. That's why I like Gretches. From the Colt, and I've always wanted a White Falcon, especially the Billy Duffy White Falcon. Well, does he have a Blue Falcon as well too? Am I thinking of the same person? He has a White Falcon, a Blue Falcon. Anyways, is there a more cost-effective option? I already have a 335 and a 355. Merry Christmas. So Gretsch does this crap where they don't make a whole lot of the electromatics in white, and they won't do a like affordable electromatic version of the White Falcon. When Joe Carducci, when I knew him, when he was running Gretsch, he told me they just won't do it, right? Like, because it's too iconic to mess with and make it affordable. There are white electromatics that have, you know, like the penguin look and the White Falcon look, but it's really tough one to do, man. The closest. Well, first of all, nobody does that. Nobody, not even Gretsch, does the White Falcon headstock correctly on anything other than the White Falcon. So if at the very least, if you're just going to get a White Falcon because you're like, okay, I'll have a white looking Gretsch. There's the White Falcon. There's a white Gretsch that you can look at. And then also Ibanez has made over the years hollow bodies that are white. But again, it's going to look like a 6120, not a White Falcon. At least as far as I know, I haven't seen anything. Google Dog says there's a new model white Gretsch electromatic recently. Yeah, there's white electromatics, but they're not, they're not the White Falcon because they don't have the orange sparkle binding. They don't have the different bridge that's a little bit more ornamental, and they don't have that giant headstock, which is really where the White Falcon kind of gets its vibe from. Yeah. Vince, I understand, man. Look, my buddy Matt sold his White Falcon, and he was here, and he's like, hey, he's like, he asked me if I would sell it, so I sold it for him. And it was at a time where I just couldn't justify the guitar at the time, and I regretted not buying it ever since. I'm like, why did I buy that? But it's just, I mean, look, we all want a White Falcon. They're just crazy expensive. So I would say, Vince, I don't know, man. I caution people if you really want something and have the means, you should buy it. But if you just want to taste it, I say the great thing if you don't own one, because you say you have two Gibsons, if you don't own a Gretsch, electromatic Gretches are great. Like if you just want to get, first of all, I really would not recommend you buying a White Falcon if you've never really played a Gretsch in any way. If you're a Gibson hollow body person and you get a Gretsch, they are so massively different in how they feel and play and vibe. I've had most of my friends that are into any kind of semi-hollow or hollow Gibsons really hate Gretches. They're just, it's just, they're too jangly. There's too much rattling going on. It's too, the vibe is too different. So I would say maybe right now the deals are crazy out there. There's good deals because, like I said, there's overstock. When I looked on Reverb, if I recall, there was an insane amount of Gretches listed on Reverb right now. Let's take a look. Because I thought it was like 6,000 or some crazy number. And I have a feeling no matter what number I say, I'm going to be wrong. 13,580 Gretches are listed on Reverb right now. And one of the first ones come up was a White Falcon, but it's $3,500. There are so many Gretches. So I know, here, look here. I know it's not the White Falcon. Oh, but see, here's a white one. It's a rat rod. But I'm just saying, I would look into just getting Electromatic, something like this. What's this? Look, we're going to sell him a guitar right now. Gretsch G54 410T. T stands for tremolo. That's how they do it. This one, is that like a gold back and then ivory? Yeah, it's a white with casino gold and the headstocks. This is kind of cool. You know why? Because one of the things about Electromatics I hate is they do a lot of headstocks just black. So it doesn't look like the Pro Series. But this is not, a White Falcon, but it's $600 and it's going to vibe and play great. And it might, don't think of it like, if you're going to spend that money, just put it towards the White Falcon. I would say, honestly, if you haven't, and I don't know this, Vims, but if you haven't owned a Gretsch, buy Electromatic, set a timeline, like a year. I've done this before, so it's how I've graduated guitar sometimes is I'll buy the less expensive version, and I'll tell myself, I got to own this for 6 months. I got to own this for a year. And at 6 months or a year, and if I love this, then I'll pass that along, it'll move itself along, and I'll get the real deal, whatever that means. And that's how I justify stuff like that. But you know what happens? What's great is when 6 months or a year go by and you go, I like it. And I don't think I don't think it's worth the investment because it's a big difference. Like I said, the cheapest, I don't want to say the cheapest, but you understand a White Falcon is about $2,500 more than something like that. And, and like I said, made in Japan Gretches are fantastic. The new ones are great. I'm favorable to the Korean made ones, but I did a deep dive of one of the new made in China ones, and it's really, really nice. I was really shocked at how good it is. And again, the price difference is massive, just massive. Squirrely Lessons. I think that's what it says. Squirrely Essence. Squirrely Essence says, have you ever regretted selling a cheaper version? Oh yeah, of course. Both ways. We call that, the gear math, right? I got something, I liked it. I thought if I got the more expensive version, my most recent horrible experience was, I try, like a lot of you, if you don't guys indulge me for a second, a little personal note here. When I have guitars, I try to find a purpose for them, musically, emotionally, like they have to serve a purpose. They just can't be wall art. I just can't, so it has to have a purpose. When I got the Delos, I really loved it. I started playing it all the time. And there's nothing in me that's like, I'm going to get rid of all my Strats now. I'm just a Kiesel Delos guy. There's nothing like that. To me, it's like, okay, I like this guitar. So where do my Strats fit in this? Because there's no way I'm just going to pick up my Delos one day and then pick up the Strat one day and just bounce and forth. I'm going to play one. And if I play another one, it's going to be for a reason. So I just couldn't find a reason for my Strats, not so much to exist, but to make sense in this, if I have this Delos and I'm playing all the time. So I came up with gear math, and the gear math was so bad. What I did was I go, hey, if you guys seen me over the years, I had a blue American Strat. I had this cool made in Mexico Strat. And I got the thumb up emoji. There it is. I had the green, the olive green Strat. I have the copper custom shop Strat. And that's just the name, those are the main ones that I had on the channel. And then I had a pink one for a while. I don't know if you guys remember, metallic pink. Anyways, so I had these Strats, and I'm like, I need to get rid of them all and get one custom shop Fender Strat. So I sold off the blue one. I sold off the Made in Mexico one. Oh, I had the baby blue Squier. Remember I had the Daphne blue Squier? Some of you guys remember I used to love that guitar. That's why it's gone. I started like, I'm just getting rid of all the Strats. I'll just have one ultimate vintage custom shop Strat and my Delos, and they won't cross because the Delos is modern with humbuckers and the custom shop is, vintagey with vintage pickups. So I buy this vintage Strat. I go and buy a 61 Journeyman, which is just, they're ridiculously priced. It is a piece of crap. I am so distraught on how not great it was. So I went to this music store, I plugged into it, I played it for about 10, 15 minutes. There was an appointment only store. They were nice. So, no pressure or anything, but I'm aware that I'm there for an appointment. So I'm there, I'm playing the guitar. I'm like, yeah, it's good. Okay, and I get it. I get home and here's a couple things. First of all, the high E like falls off the edge. I just don't like the way it plays. I just don't like the guitar. So this isn't going to work, but I've already committed to this idea. So I'm like, okay, now I got to figure out what to do with this custom shop. I'll have to sell it. So I went to Wildwood, their website, and I bought a blue custom shop, right? Because I'm like, oh, I have the money because I'm selling off all these Strats. I'm selling off, piecemealing off the Strats. And that one was better, but not great. And by the way, I want to make very clear, this is the emotional side of that I'm having. The guitars are probably fine. It's just I'm not having this, wow, way better than my Made in Mexico, way better than my, American Fender, way better than, I'm not having this is way better than what I have. I was like, it's different, but not better. So I ended up, I think earlier this year, I sold the blue custom shop off and I sold it for a massive loss, which I really hated doing, but I just couldn't. Whoever bought that, by the way, I hope you enjoyed it because I gave like a smoking deal because it was good, but not great. That went off its way. And now the other custom shop, just can't stand it. So if you guys notice, that's why the olive green Strat now has single coils in it. At some point, to answer your question, do I regret it? Yeah, I regretted all that because I really like the green Strat, the Army green Strat, which is olive green. And I thought, why don't I just put some pickups in it? So I wound up some pickups. I just wound up my own single coils. I made some and I vintage spec'd them out and then I threw them in there because I was like, well, I can do that in the afternoon. I did that and put it in and now it's great. And the Gear Math did what Gear Math always does. It seems to be a flaw that just because it's more expensive does not mean it's better. And that's the lesson I learned. So to answer your question, there's several times I've done that. I mentioned it before with certain guitars. I've gotten SPRSSEs and loved them and thought if I get the core one, it'll be better, and it's not. Nothing wrong with these high-end guitars. There's some of them are so great. It's the opposite. The inexpensive stuff is just not comparable in quality, but it doesn't always work that way. There's no straight thing about it. In fact, I was just recently talking to some friends, and we were talking about the ES335 and the ES339 by Gibson. And in my opinion, again, because I don't want to trigger anybody. It's the holidays, and I just kind of like, I don't know why everybody gets so upset. Every time someone has an opinion. Here's my opinion. I personally like the Epiphone ES335 as much. I'll say as much. I couldn't say better, but definitely as much, maybe a little better than the 335. But I do not like the Epiphone 339 as much as the Gibson 339. I don't know why that is. So, in fact, when I got that 335, I said it in that video. I said I only bought it because, Bizarre Guitar had a great deal in Reno, and I thought this is a great way to get into that kind of guitar and try it out and see what I think of it. Now that I've had it, I really like it. I might eventually just actually get rid of it and get an Epiphone. I'm just trying to get there with it in my head. I don't know. Okay, let's see what you guys are talking about. And if you're talking to me, put a question mark first so I know it's just directed towards me and trying to read some of the comment sections and stuff. I don't know. All right, let's go over to an Amanda question then so I can grab it real fast. This came from Lee. Says, hey, Phil, were you saying maple necks are stronger than equivalent mahogany? Yeah, I mean, it is. It's not. I don't know if it's a fact. I'm not that versed in the wood because I'm not a. I'm a guitar tech. I'm not like a wood person, sort of thing. But in my experience, the maple necks take way more abuse than the mahogany necks. But like I said in that comment, keep in mind that was also because the variable that's hard to understand is that a lot of times the mahogany necks have an extreme angle on the headstock. Like a Fender neck with no angle on the headstock in maple is pretty bulletproof. You can play stickball with a Fender neck and put it back on your guitar. I wouldn't trust that so much with a mahogany neck with an angled headstock. You might snap it if the ball hits it. So yeah, it could be just the design difference too, but I have to highlight that the design difference is a factor plus the wood. In my guess is if you had two identical necks made the same way with an angled headstock, one made of maple and one made of mahogany, I would imagine you could break the mahogany one easier. That would be my guess. Like if I stepped on it, I would maybe less force to get to the same place. Just a guess. Maybe we need to take two necks and step on them. The internet will love it. I don't know why. Hey, Dave says, shout out to stickball. Yeah, that feels like a very old-timey thing to say now, right? I don't think I could... I don't even know if I told my kids stickball, they'd even know what it means. So, John wants to know if I ever made a high-quality guitar kit. In the theory that I've done Warmoth parts and assembled guitars from them many times, I would say that would be like a high-end kit guitar, like a parts caster, parts guitar. So I would say, yeah. Yeah, that's really my guess. Let's go here. We have Paul says, thanks. The Martin guitar I want is for as a beach guitar, we're talking about earlier. That'd be cool. Like I said, those composite ones would be good for the beach. One of the things I really like that they did with the Martin's X series is they put all the electronics inside the sound hole, which is really cool because then there's less stuff, dirt, sand, moisture to get into the electronics on the outside. I thought that was a smart move. So Phil says, is my baby Martin more durable than a standard acoustic? Well, no, because remember, Martin is made the correct way, which is going to have a solid top. Solid tops, the laminated guitars take way more abuse because there's layers of glue in between each sheet of wood, and each sheet of wood is usually going different directions. So it becomes really strong. It's plywood, it's really strong. So especially when a piece of wood is really thin like that. So, and they're less susceptible to the moisture changes and stuff. So laminate guitars are more durable. That's why I told you it's a different experience. Electric guitar players, if you buy a Squier and then you buy a Fender, nothing really changes in how you take care of it. You maybe treat the fretboard, maybe, that's about it. That's what you do, right? It's like, acoustic guitar has got a little bit more going on, and a laminated top, sides, and back inexpensive acoustic is not going to crack very easy. It's not going to move very much. It's not going to do a lot of things that have problems and it's counterintuitive because you're thinking, well, I bought a more expensive acoustic, so it's more durable. Well, it's more delicate, but it's more delicate because that's how it projects the sound, right? The more solid the guitar, the thinner the sheets, the more loud it can be. Is it more loud a thing? It's louder. I shouldn't say more loud. It's louder. So that's why like the Martin backpackers, which sound great, they crack because again, Martin really cares about the sound. The company's built on their sound. So it's hard for them to compromise that part of the instrument, is my guess. That'd be my guess. Where a lot of other companies don't have to worry about that. They're really not known, for that. But I don't know if that helps. Hold on. I had a comment and it moved. Where it goes. Mike wants to know, any new gear coming that you can't tell us about? Yeah, He said, but in fairness, he says, but can tell us without telling us about. No, yeah, no. The funny part is most of the stuff I don't know about. Isn't that funny? The channel, which is good. I'm in a good place with this. The channel for some reason had a record year this year on YouTube. Not only with views, but with average views. The average views this year was way higher than previous years. As you guys can see on my videos, like every channel, I have a 10,000 view video or something like that. And then I have a 300,000 view video, something like that. And you're like, that's cool. But the average, man, just really has picked up. The channel's done really well in spite of the fact that I've almost had no early release products from companies. In other words, the companies working with the channel gets smaller and smaller each year. So I know less and less about what's going on. So I react to it a lot of times like you guys. The conclusion is that we've decided that, one, we don't care because the channel's doing really well, because I think the less that the community perceives the channel as a marketing arm for companies, the more, maybe that's why it's doing better. I have no idea why, if that's a factor. But that all being said, the main thing is we think also the deep dives, which I think you guys have really responded to that formula of how the video works across and what I'm targeting across the video. I think the companies are less excited about that, that formula as a whole. Not all companies. Some companies love it and they can't wait to have me do another video. But a lot of companies are like, yeah, we're not interested in that kind of formula. That being said, what I can't tell you, which sucks, is we have something exciting coming to the Geeky Dive, Deep Dive videos next year that I'm super excited about. And that's kind of a crappy thing to do, tease you, but I'm super excited about this. Just more, it's enhancing the video even more stuff coming, more tests, more. Like, we're looking at 2025, like a new season on the channel. Like, let's add some new stuff. So we're gonna add a couple new tests in the geeky stuff section, which is cool. It's not gonna make the videos any longer. We'll just keep them smooth out, and some new feature sets. So really cool. Thank you for letting me torture you with that. I'm basically saying thank you for letting me have the ability to do that stuff. That's really cool. I'm really excited about that. SC David said, hey, happy holidays. Phil, I'll be replacing the wiring on a PJ bass. Do you recommend a specific value of pots? I've seen people recommend wiring in parallel. The volume pots, is it worth it? I mean, it's a sound preference. It's up to you. It's tough for me. Man, I don't personally, here's what's tough. I don't personally have a preference on that. So if that makes any sense. All of my basses are pretty much stock. The only bass that I have that is not stock is my tangerine. It's burnt tangerine. Jazz Deluxe has Bartolini's in it. Other than that, everything else in bass line for me is stock. I don't really manipulate my basses for some reason. Like, I plug in and they just go. It's not like guitars. For some reason, there's this quest to do stuff with guitars. That's why a lot of times people ask me why I don't do so much bass content. It's because I really don't. I love bass. I play bass, but I don't own a lot, and I don't really gear. Like, I don't really get into the gear side of the bass so much, if that makes any sense. So, boring answer, I'm sure. Okay, hold on. Trying to make sure I'm staying on top of stuff. Locks Sustainer, I'm going to say that's right. I'm hoping that's right. Says, thanks for the great content this year, Phil. How many more new guitars do you think the market can bear? In my 20 years of playing, buying, selling, and trading, I've bought one new instrument. Well, you're unique, right? Thank goodness. The cool part is for you, for every one of you, there's 3 gear fanatics that can't stop buying guitars. So that's what keeps the industry alight. How many more new guitars do you think? I don't think any new guitars can come to the market. When I say that, by the way, when I say that, I believe, I've been saying this before the COVID boom, before the guitar boom that happened after COVID. Take that out. Okay. So go back to my old podcasts and what I was projecting. What I was projecting was no more growth in the industry when it comes to more companies, more. I just say more. There's going to be no more. Okay. All right. So I'm not saying that it's going to shrink, but it's probably going to be shrinking. What's going to happen now is exchange. Okay. And what I mean by that is, if you asked me, Phil, do you think there'll be how many new guitar companies added? In other words, more guitar companies do I think there'll be in 2025? I will say the answer is 0. That's my belief. I think during COVID, we had this, because of this artificial boom where everybody had a little extra cash, a little extra depression, a little extra alcohol, perfect formula for whatever happened, right? Buying all this stuff. Take that equation out. That's a fluke. That's the anomaly. Okay. So you take that out now. Then you go, where are we at? Here's where we're at. If a new company kicks in the door and does great, somebody's going. I believe that. So if you said, hey, Phil, how many new guitar companies, let's say for argument's sake, there was 1,000 guitar companies on the planet Earth. And you say, Phil, how many more than 1,000 will be in 2025? I'm saying none. Because every time one pops and does well, somebody's going away. In other words, and you can see it. You can see it. I can cite so many examples of amp companies, of pedal companies, and guitar companies where instead of more, we have an exchange. Somebody comes in and then somebody kind of fades out, and it's taking market. I was once asked by a guitar builder in California, it's not Kiesel, who does high-end guitars, does extremely expensive guitars, guitars that don't go, they start at $2,600 and they go up. So I'll give you a reference. And he said, how do I get more guitars into players' hands? And I said, who is your biggest competitor? And they named 2 custom brands, 2 high-end brands. And I said, that's your customer now. You have to get the person who has that guitar to get rid of it and get yours. That's the exchange out. It's an exchange out now. That's what I believe. It's just how it's going to be for a while. Because here's why. Guitar companies, amp companies, pedal companies don't create new market. Artists create new market. That's how all the gear we have now is here now. If you look, it's crazy. If you're like me and you don't have any guitar magazines anymore, but that's okay if you don't. Next time you're in town, wherever you're in town, there's going to be some book exchange store. There's going to be one of those stores that just trades books all day, right? Now it's like books and gym equipment or whatever. Go to the magazine section, the used magazine section, pull up Guitar World magazines or whatever, Guitar for the Practicing Musician, all those from the 70s, the 80s, and 90s. Go through them. Just leaf through them real quick. Look at the ads. Dude, no joke. 90% of the stuff in those ads, that's what people still want now. That's it. Like, you go through there and then start trying to think of how many things existed now that didn't exist then. It's a short list of gear, of brands that are here now that weren't there then. It's a short list. And if there is a brand, for every brand you mention, I'm going to tell you what brand's now gone. Because there's so many brands that are gone now. So that's my whole point is I believe that musicians are the chefs. The chefs make us want to eat the gear. This is getting weird with the analogy, but I feel like I need an analogy. I think you guys understand it, right? You need Slash, you need Jimi Hendrix, you need Clapton, you need Van Halen, you need, Pat Metheny, you need right? You need whoever, you need somebody. That's how you get inspired. Sure, you'll cycle gear. You'll watch a YouTuber for a minute, or you're flipping and you see an ad on Reverb or something, and that sparks or some guy says this is the worst pedal ever, and then next thing you know, you're buying it that night online. That will happen, but not at the scale of what a amazing artist can do. That an artist can really move the needle. And until we get whoever that is, which we'll know it, none of us will have to guess, right? You'll just all of a sudden be like, everyone talks about this artist and everybody has to have what this artist has. And that's the thing. So that's my answer to that question. so to speak, if that makes any sense. Yeah. So there's no more room. So now it's cannibalism. They got to, survival of the fittest. The brands have to take each other's market share. So that's a thought. Live to play guitar. Love that sign on. Says, live to play guitar, live to play guitar. Okay. Boy, I'm reading this. This is a good marketing post. It says, hey, Philip, should I tighten claw screws to deck Floyd or add extra springs? So here's the easy answer. If you're going to deck the Floyd Rose and you're going to use it with the claws, use at least 3 springs and then use the claw. If you don't have 3, if you only have 2, I would add a spring then, and then clamp the claw down. What I don't recommend is like putting, not doing the claw and then putting like 5 springs. Here's why. The springs, if they're not super tight, they actually get noisier. So when you play guitars, they reverberate more when they have a little bit of sag in them. So you want to, and if you put too many, it gets sometimes a little hard depending on your string gauge and stuff. So I'm going to go usually, and also I tie that into string gauge. Like, so I always talk to you, like if you brought that guitar to me and you're like, hey, can you deck my Floyd? I'd be like, okay, what do you use? And if you said 9s, I'd be like, okay, let's put 3 springs on it, tighten it down. If you said 10s, I don't know. I might do 2 and 2, springs and deck it down. And if you do 11s, maybe I go 5, whatever. But 3s probably 3 would be good enough for almost all those string gauges as well. But I would do 3 and then do the claw. Searching for tone in all the wrong places. Searching for tone. This is why I don't sing. Says, pedal sucks. Throw it away. I'll throw it away for you. Yeah. Yeah. See, it's good. It's good. Scent of a wheelchair pillow says, Merry Christmas, big homie. That's cool. It's fun. I won't tell you that. That's funny. You make me think, it's funny because your sign on is Scent of a wheelchair pillow and you don't have a real name. I have a friend who calls me homie a lot. So I was like, I wonder if this is him now. It says, you make many lives better. Definitely mine. Wishing you and your family the best. I appreciate that, man. That's really kind of you. Tom says, thanks for all you do on the channel and building this great community. I appreciate all the compliments, although they're not very interesting for everybody else. So I appreciate the super chat and the compliment. So I want to say thank you, because that's obviously amazing, being told nice things and then funding my channel, which is always nice. But yeah, it's a little tough because it's not really interesting for everybody else. It says, Mr. S says, what power supplies and pedal boards do you recommend? Thanks a bunch. Just for Phil. Thanks again for mentioning my Hollow Flash last week. Oh, no problem. So if you guys don't remember, Mr. S has his Hollow Flash Badlands listed at that store that I want to say is Maze with a Z, something with a Z. I gotta pull it up. I will tell you what, I'll timestamp it and then I'll put the link to the store again. If not, it's on last week's show. You can check out the link there. Pedal boards. For pedal boards, I like, personally, the pedal boards I use are the Holy board, especially the new one. I will be doing a review of the new one. The new one allows you to use some of the plates from the Temple boards, which is the other pedal board I like. So I use Holy boards and Temple boards. First of all, I like Chris, the owner of Holy boards. I bought my first Holy board. I just found it one day online. I fell in love with it. I just started using it. And then I got his next one. It came out, and then because I had a YouTube channel and he saw me do a review of the first 2, he sent me one. So the third one, he sent to the channel, and now he's got a new version that's even better. I really like his stuff. He's made in the USA. He makes it as steel, out of steel. He's a owner operator. Like, you're funding the right things, right? You're funding his family. You're funding everything, and I love his quality. That's what I use. And then I use Temple boards, which are made in Canada, that I also like for the same reason. First of all, I don't use Velcro because I've said before, I have dogs and cats, and to me, it's all just a lot. I guess it's OCD. I don't know. I don't want to look at hair and dirt on my boards as I'm trying not to burp. Sorry. So anyways, so those are the 2 boards I like for sure. And that's what I use. And that's all I've really ever used. I've highlighted some other boards, like the ones from Daddario and stuff, and those are really cool. As I like to show you guys all the choices, but sometimes on the podcast, I try to lean towards what I personally use, is not so much what I've shown you guys on the videos and stuff, because I mean, I've shown every kind of brand of guitar, but I only personally own a few, brands. So those are the ones I kind of highlight. Power supplies, it depends on what you're using. I like Chucks. It's Cioks. But it's pronounced Chucks. Weirdest spelling, Cioks. I highly love those. And then I like One Spots, although One Spots are fun because every time you bring up One Spot, half the internet goes, they horrible, and half the internet loves them. If you're going to use one pedal, I use a One Spot. I don't know. I've never had a problem with it. Or use Chucks. Those are what I recommend for sure. But the good news is, for you is, I have a video coming before the end of the year of Holy Board. And at the very least, like all of my videos like that, I'll be not only showing the product, but then highlighting some, like how, all the, like I did before with all the other pedal board videos, a couple tricks and tips and stuff, and then some power supplies and stuff like that. Metal Burrow 6174 says Chucks rock. Yeah, I really, really like them. I never knew about them. What happened was when Sweetwater did the Guinness Book of World Record largest pedal board ever, they sent me a section of it and it had Chucks, and I started using it, and because I was like, hey, it's here, it's free, I'm gonna use it. So I started using it, and then I liked it so much I bought one. So I have two. I have one of each of their models. No particular one over the other, but I have two pedal boards. So like I said, I liked it because I liked so much I bought it. Okay, let's do a second winner. We have another winner for today because we want to say thank you to you guys for sending us pictures and stuff. So here we go. This winner is Paul. Look at Paul. I didn't even notice. It's funny. This was a random pick. So Paul was picked randomly because I told you we've been doing random winners too. Just because we're trying not to make it all like, hey, just is what Phil likes. It's just like random winner. Although I do like this photo now that I've seen it, but it was randomly picked. And what was great is I didn't even notice when I was looking at it. It's like, oh, he's got a shirt on the wood statue that's in orange, which is really cool. I love the Gibson V. I like the pick guard on his telly. It's really cool. It's like a paisley kind of colorful vibe. It's like, this is one of those pictures where I'm like, all right, let's check out his gear, everybody. He's got the Peavey amp. He's got the Ampeg guitar amp. Then he's got an Ampeg 410 underneath that. And it looks like he's got the Tone Master. What's interesting is he's got the Tone Master, and then he's got a microphone in front of it, but it's like microphone's like way low, not where the speaker is. So maybe it is. I don't know. Sometimes camera angles throw you off. And then he's got a rolling cube. I think that's a PRS S2 behind him, like a standard 22. It's hard to see. And then he's got like a Les Paul Special, it looks like, and a Gibson Les Paul, an acoustic. Oh, he's got a Know Your Gear hat. See, I just noticed the Know Your Gear hat up in the up on the staff. So, Paul, you won a Nichols 1966 Dane Electro pedal that has a fuzz and overdrive. So I want to thank you for sending the picture and supporting the channel. It's really, really cool. So I want to thank you for that, and enjoy the pedal. Shauna will probably get it out to you next week. So if I don't hear from you this weekend, we've been messaging out anybody who's won anything. I think we're pretty good. I feel like we've given 90% of the stuff. I feel safe to say 90% of the people who won have gotten their stuff. There is 10% out there. Like I know I don't want to say their names, but there's some people I'm aware of because Sean is like, I emailed them and I haven't heard back. So if you did win, just let us know. My fear is I don't think anyone didn't know they won. I just want to make sure, because I know sometimes, like, I've had people reach out to me going, they feel awkward. No, don't. Look, you're part of the fam, so to speak. You know what I mean? We're easily distracted with things to do all week. So if we missed you for any reason, please just let us know, because we want to make sure the stuff gets to you. It's really important. So just to let you guys know. Ray says, hey, thoughts on the Bose JBL? Why not make instrument compatible speakers? You'd think they'd be great at turning speakers into a pedal platform. Oh, I understand what you're saying. So are you talking about like using Bose and JBL as like an FRFR or something like that? I don't know. I will tell you this, and I know very little about the PA game, right? I I had a store that we only sold guitar stuff. We never sold any real PA stuff at all. Now I say that because we did carry Mackie for a very short time, and it was a huge mistake for us because no musicians came to our store for a PA. So we just had this Mackie stuff laying around. Ended up having to blow it out for probably at a loss, or something like that, just to get it out of the door. So anyways, my point is, I would imagine PA people are happy with their market and not the guitar market. So in the guitar market, I would imagine the PA market's a much bigger market than guitar market. The reason I say that, it's very uneducated what I'm saying, because I'm not versed in that at all. Because like I said, I didn't own a music store. I owned a guitar shop, right? So we sold guitars, basses, all that stuff. We didn't do like drums and PA and band work and all that stuff. So it's like I'm not a typical music store owner per se like that. So I'm not versed now. But I will tell you that when you walk the NAMM, the PA guys had bigger booths. And usually the size of the booth dictates the size of the market share they have. I mean, that's usually the case. So they had much bigger sections than the guitar company. So I would imagine maybe that's why they're not interested in doing FR. A lot of people like Mackie and stuff have done like guitar centric small mini PA stuff, but I think the market's just too small. The guitar market is super, super small. It's most of the guitar market is hanging out right now. I'm just kidding. But it's a small market. It's not the biggest. Oh, by the way, Mr. S says it's Moze Guitars, M-O-Z-E, Moze Guitars. Thank you, Mr. S. So you guys can check out Moze Guitars website. I will tag it as well. Okay. Okay, where am I missing stuff? Let me grab. Okay, this is from Amanda. Amanda sent me checking your reality for you. That's their sign-on. That's a lot of words. I didn't even know you could put 5 words as a sign-on. That's a long sign-on. Checking your reality for you. He says, thoughts on Tone Rider pickups, Jensen P10Q in small combos. There's 2 questions. Let's go with the Tone Rider. I don't know much about the Tone Rider pickups, so I don't have any real thoughts on them. It's sad. I have this guitar that can demo pickups. I have a platform where I can demo pickups. And to date, I've had maybe a whopping 4 companies ever, much less reach out, respond to emails about doing reviews of guitar pickups. DiMarzio, because Larry DiMarzio is my friend. In fact, so I did a giveaway with his pickups recently at Sweetwater. That was because he asked Sweetwater to sponsor the video, and so they sponsored the video so we could give away the pickups. So that's because he's my buddy. That's it. Like, think about this. He likes the channel because we're friends. But I mean, he's mostly just sending me pickups because he almost like, hey, Phil's channel needs some help. Dylan Talks Tone sent some pickups. Thanks to Dylan Talks Tone for doing that. And Fishman for a little while was sending pickups. They probably still are, so that's good too. And then, I mean, there's been a few in the past, but I mean, recent years, that's it. I said 4. I couldn't even name 4. So we'll see in 2025 if we do that. Keep in mind, like I always say, I don't have to be sent product to do videos. I just need to know the video is wanted. Obviously, if you guys want videos, if you're interested in Tone Rider pickups, let me know. Message me. The one thing you can do is you can email me and say, this is what I'd like to see. I get those emails all day. I don't respond to them, but people don't understand. It's like, if you're nice enough to send me an email saying, hey, Phil, do the Squier classic vibe. Hey, Phil, could you do this Tone Rider pickup? Whether you ask me or not, 1, that could be enough to make it happen. But trust me, if 2 or 3 or 4 people ask, I go, what am I missing here? What can we talk about? What can I make a video about? I've said it before. I'm proud to say this. The huge majority of the income I make on YouTube is from YouTube. It's from the videos. So that's you. You're literally watching the videos. You're paying the bills. You're the boss. If that's in order, it goes like this. It's the YouTube channels, which is you guys. Then it's the Patreon /channel members. then it's probably affiliate links, then it's sponsored content from companies. That's the 4 revenue streams of the channel. And that's actually not true. Here's why. Because technically it's really you guys watching the videos, then it's the Patreons and members, then it's my selling my pickups and merch. So again, you guys again. Then affiliate links, which is you guys again, right? And then companies. So that's how my loyalty lies out. It's just not even an ethical aspect, just on the what's good for me. So please suggest things, because the majority of content is that's how I'm deciding to do it. But the one thing you guys can't do is make it easy for me. And that's what companies can do. And that's how they get my attention. Because obviously you can imagine if a company was to email me right now and say, hey, we'd really like to have you do a video of this guitar. We'll send you the guitar and we'll pay for the video. Well, how do I say no to that? That's an easy video to make. And I can use that funding to make other videos that you guys like. And see, that's how it works. So luckily for us, I guess as a community, that doesn't happen very often on the channel. So we'll stick with this. But let's get into Marcus's. Marcus Graff says, hey, Phil, we know that you think vintage is a scam. As you mentioned this in a previous show, what are your thoughts on Relic guitars? Relic guitars to me is a finish. It's a type of finish. What's funny is I realized that I don't own a Relic guitar, but it's not a conscious decision. I don't value the Relic for the price. So understand, perfect example. Like the guitars behind me, let's take a look. Okay? Because I need to look. I'm gonna, if you just don't mind me, guys, take a second here. Okay, ready? So yes, no, yes. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure before I tell a story that I'm actually accurate. On the guitars wall behind me, okay? So you guys know there's a Gretsch guitar in black, because this is an audio podcast too. There's a Godin in a matte, it's like a darker blue-gray. There's an ES335 Gibson. There's a Fender Jazzmaster. There's a Charvel custom painted by my buddy Brian at Painthoffer. There's an ES339. There's a Gibson Les Paul Classic. There's a Framus television. There's a Kiesel Delos. There's an Ibanez RG565, and then there's a PRS Hollow Body. Of these guitars, that Framus was sent to me by the company, and that Delos was sent to me by Kiesel. All these guitars I bought. Now, the reason I tell you that is to tell you, look at what I bought. I buy, obviously, I like finishes that look fancy, or I like cool colors. I value this, the difficulty of making them look nice. So that's kind of what I go after. So the Relic, I like Relic guitars. I want a Relic guitar. I just don't want to pay the charge for a Relic guitar. That's the sad part of it. It's like if a Relic guitar, if you told me, I don't think it should be less money, but if you told me that a Relic Strat was the same price as a non-Relic Strat, I'd probably be a buyer. I'd be like, yeah, let's get a Relic guitar in here. It's kind of cool looking. It looks all worked in and stuff. But when Relic guitars are way more, I'm like, way more? Nah, I'd rather have fancy, something fancy. So I think they're a finish. I think liking a Relic guitar is no different than liking a fluorescent pink guitar, or a sunburst guitar, or whatever guitar tickles your fancy. It's just an aesthetic. I don't believe in the whole it's it's fake and it's posers. I'm like, oh, this stuff is kind of posers for the most part. We're all posers until you made it, and I don't know any of you have made it. I haven't made it, so we'll see who's the posers. I think it's definitely all of us. I think, or most of us, at least me. But back to your comment. But keep in mind, I guess I want to read the question the way it kind of vibes, which maybe your question deep down is, when I talked about vintage as a scam and why I kind of did that. Remember, I went for the extreme on that because I wanted to make my point that, like with my Ibanez, my Ibanez Universe, they could make that guitar. They choose not to, or when they do, they make it super limited and super expensive, and it keeps driving those used high prices and makes the vintage price crazy. I feel the same way with Gibson and Fender. They relish in the fact that they can artificially keep the prices high. And this is the thing that sucks for me mentally. Fender wants us to pine after, and I'm sorry I'm picking on Fender, but it's just an easy analogy, and they're the big guys, so it's not, okay. They want us to pine after a 60s Strat, a real one, because then that gives them the ability to slap a ridiculous price on a reissue one. I mean, anybody that looks at this stuff can see it. It's easy to figure out. Look, there's nothing wrong. I told you I'm the biggest dumbass anyways. I buy stupid stuff because I want it just like everybody else. And it's an emotional response, not a logical one. But even with an emotional response, my brain kicks in going, you sucker. Because of course, you're like, let me get this straight. So if Fender makes a guitar really nice, like think about this. They make the Ultra series and they're like, it's the greatest guitar we've ever made. It's got quarter sawn maple. It's got laser pointers shooting out of it, noiseless pickups, new finishes, new neck carves. That guitar's still not as much as a vintage reissue. We're not talking custom shop. We're talking about vintage reissue. Let me get this straight. So it costs more to make a guitar like they did before than making it even more modern and more, right? No, they put a premium. In fact, the proof in this, in my logic in watching it is, if use Squier, go to the Squier website, go to Sweetwater Guitar Center, go to Squiers and look at Squiers, and you'll see that the more expensive a Squier gets, the more accurate it gets to being vintage. We're not even talking about Fender now. We're not even talking about Gibson. You do this with Epiphone too. The more it's like the original, in spec-wise, specifications, the more they charge for it. If you follow that logic, then go into Fender and then like Epiphone and Gibson, you'll see it keeps getting more and more expensive. The more they're like, oh, this finish, it's nitro, it's more like the original. The more they get like the original, the more they charge. Why? Because somebody will pay it because the originals are worth so much money. So I always point this out. It's not that I'm not saying vintage guitars aren't good. I'm saying that they all have learned to cash in on that value. And that's apparent across the industry. And I'm not even calling them out for it. I'm just explaining it. Because even knowing that, I still buy the stuff. Because I told you, I'm loyal to my addiction, which my addiction is gear. I've said this before. I own a Gibson Les Paul because of Slash. I own an Amplified Nation Wonderland amp because of John Mayer. I'm a poser. I'm sorry. I'm not into sports. I would assume that if I was into sports, you would have to watch me. I'd have my face painted and I'd wear some jersey of some person that throws a ball somewhere and I'd be all into it. That's what I think of myself as this. I'm that. I'm just wearing the jersey and I'm painting my face, but it's for guitars. So there's that's how I look at that. Okay. Let's do one more and we jump over. Hold on. Okay. Sean, what's up, Sean Brooks? This came from Amanda. Says, hey, Phil, Friedman is the modern Marshall. Who would you say is the modern better Fender? He says Tone King. Interesting. Wow. You know what's funny about that is, I think the problem is you don't need a new Fender, a new version of Fender, because Fender. Think about how the history of it goes. You have Fender first. They make amps. They're not loud enough, right? So you got Marshall comes out and he's like, hey, I can make an amp. It's louder. It's bigger. It's ferocious. It's distorted. And it's the new sound, right? You can imagine how happy Fender was when Marshall kicked into the market. I'm sure for a long time, it was like Fender was just playing catch up. Everybody was playing catch up to Marshall. So here's my point with this. Then the market swung back the other way. It took a long time, 4 decades at least. Now we're back to, okay, now everybody wants a 20 watt amp again. They don't want a 100 watt amplifier. So I think Fender then fell back into its own. In other words, think about this. If I go on YouTube, if I was going to take a temperature of the guitar community on YouTube, and I don't mean the YouTubers, I'm talking about I'm on, like you guys, I'm on YouTube and watching some guy, he's got 300 views and 8 subscribers. He's got a quick little video. I'm watching it too all the time. Lots of cool stuff out there. man, the Fender Princeton, I think, would be the most. If we're talking about, like literally, I see the Princeton everywhere. Actually, almost as much, if not more, than the Blues Junior. And that tells you something. The Princeton's 12 watts. Blues Junior is 15 watts. These are very low wattage amps. Very, very popular right now. And so I think that's kind of why Friedman is killing, because the thing you can't get with Marshall is the volume to sound huge and full at a lower setting, where the Friedmans really can kick at a lower setting. And of course, Friedman's doing a lot of the 20 watt heads, and he did it a little better than what Marshall put out for getting the volume controllable. Because like I said, I can't get any of the 20 watt Marshalls to sound good without using some kind of attenuation. But that still didn't answer your question. I just want to give you why I think we don't need so much as a new modern take on the Fenders. But if I was going to say who's the new Fender, I'm trying to think if I even own anybody like that. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, you could say Tone King, but it's tough. And keep in mind, when we say Friedman's the new, kind of the new modern Marshall, I mean, his numbers versus Marshall's numbers, they're not in the same league, just like Tone King wouldn't be in the same league as Fender. But I'd give it to you. Maybe Tone King. I'm trying to think who else is out there. I can't think of it. I can't think of anyone that's... Because think of this. I have a bunch of Fenders and I play them every day. And there's nobody like pulling me in, like you would think, like maybe Dr. Z or Tone King or Morgan. There's so many great amps, but nothing's really pulling me away from Fender. So that's an interesting question, in that why is that not happening? Because I was definitely pulled away from Marshall. I did not look, in a perfect world, I'd play Marshall and I'd play Fender because I love them two amps. But I have a Marshall, but I play mostly my Friedman. So I've been pulled away from it because, like I said, I would gladly be very happy to own a Marshall that sounds like a Friedman. Somebody says Benson, Koch amps. Yeah, Line 6, Mesa. I mean, there's tons. I mean, nothing really has pulled me away, though. Like I said, I like all those amps. It's not about liking the amps. It's about, like I said, I would think that it would have to be a pull. Who's pulled me away from a brand? So, yeah, it's a great question. I don't know. Maybe I'll have an answer in the future that's better than that. All right, let's button up this show. We have Mr. S says, hey, if I'm starting out on bass, what to buy? I want to add some bass lines to my home recordings, and it's fun. Use Fender Peavey. It's up to you. I'm a real big proponent for short scale and medium scale basses for guitar players. The reason I say that is because, the stretch on a 34-inch scale bass is a little much for some guitar players. They don't like it. Maybe it's not a big deal. I could tell you this, though, a P bass is always a fantastic idea. You can do anything with a P bass. You can record anything with it. It's probably the most recorded bass in history, probably even to this day. So there's nothing wrong with going with a P bass, but I'd also check out shorter scale or mid-scale basses. I always love it when people are like, short scale basses don't sound right. I'm like, well, don't tell Paul McCartney. Ray says, hey, Bose portable speakers with jacks to be like a Spark Mini. Oh, okay. I think he's clarifying. I don't really have an answer to that, but I'll come back to it if I can think of something. It's kind of still, I'm sticking with my first original answer. Dr. Thunder. That's a great name, man. And why do they call you Dr. Thunder? Because I bring the thunder. Okay, it says, I have an 8-string multi-scale guitar with the trim. It's 28. So he's talking about scale length, 28 inches by 26 and a half. I have 9s on it. How many springs? Oh, I have no idea, bro. I mean, I have no idea. All of them? What's funny is I had to set up do setups on some 8 strings, and they got more popular in the mid 2000s. Like, so around 2012, 13, 14, around those years. So let's say 11 to 14, I would see more and more come in the shop, and I'd have to set them up. And they're brutal because the frets are so wide. You're just always leveling the frets, and they never seem to be leveled right because there's just so much real estate for those frets. And then I don't think I've done one. Well, I can tell you the last 8-string I probably touched was Lawrence Petros had a, was that an 8? That was a 7. Nope, that was a 7 Strandberg. So I think the last 8-string I touched was probably some Agile, and it was probably 10 years ago, coming up on 10 years ago. So that's a little out of my thing. But good news is we're doing an 8-string. We're going to do some 8 strings this in 2025. See, I can't tell you the secret or some of the cool stuff, the secret stuff that's coming on the channel for the deep dives, but we're going to be expanding the types of guitars we do in a way that I think you guys are going to be super excited about. Because I'm excited about it, and it's a cool idea. And like I said, hey, it's only a couple weeks. You'll always know in a couple weeks. But the answer is I don't know the answer, but we do have more 8 strings coming on the channel. So if that helps at all. All right, let's do one more, and then we'll call it. Okay. Let's Tessie Switch. Tessie Switch asked, does Peavey still own composite acoustics? I believe they do. I believe they did not sell it. Composite acoustics is what led me to Emerald Acoustics. So, well, this is fun. Since we're ending the show, I'll tell you guys a little fun secret. So, I had my first composite acoustic guitar was not composite acoustic, the brand. It was a Rain Song. And so I bought a Rain Song and I absolutely loved it. But I thought the neck was a little thin and the edge was a little sharp and it just kind of didn't feel right. I've talked about it, like I feel like it was bruising my hand right here, just the heaviness of the neck. It was just a little intense. I've had composite basses too. The moduluses would sometimes do that to me where the Zahn basses didn't, because they were a little softer the way they were rounded. But anyways, I had a couple Rain Songs and I really liked them. I really liked the idea of just like picking up the acoustic and strumming it, and like kind of like I said with an electric guitar, just pick it up. It's always in tune. It's not reacting to the environment. And when you live in a very dry environment, whether it's very hot or cold, it doesn't matter. There's very cold, dry environments. Dry environments are just, they're not, no moss, no good for wood. So I had this Rain Song, didn't love it. And then I played a composite acoustic at the NAMM show at their booth, and I fell in love. And then they got acquired by Peavey, and I thought this was gonna be great because at the time I was a Peavey dealer, and I was like, this is good. And it took a while. There's a weird transition, and it didn't happen. And then I just never got my hands on one through Peavey, and then it's like they went away. So I haven't even looked. Has anyone looked? Can anyone look online before I let you go? Composite Acoustics, the brand. Okay, there's a website. It is owned by Peavey, so you know. And the reason I know is because I'm very familiar with Fender or Peavey and their funding and stuff, and so I recognize something on the website that tells me. So this is Composite Acoustic. So they're still owned by Peavey, but if you notice, there's nothing here. Look at that. There's nothing up here. There's nothing to click on. So this feels like a placeholder website. So this is exactly what Parker did towards the end. They just had this website and everybody's like, no, they still have a website. I'm like, I don't think it exists. So if anyone knows anything different or knows any inside information, I don't really, don't tell me crap I already know. They don't have anything on their website and Peavey owns them. That I know, okay? Because I just saw it and I just verified that. So those two things are accurate. My guess is it's a shelved brand. So Peavey owns it and they're not manufacturing it, probably because, again, they couldn't move enough units. It's not their focus. Who knows what the story is behind that? But yeah. So so I said I'd end with Emerald Acoustics. So when Emerald came out with acoustics guitars, I was super, super stoked because I was like, well, finally. I felt like, so I don't know if you know this, but Rain Song closed. Rain Song, when the owner retired, I think he retired. I don't think he passed away. I think he retired. When he retired, there was no successorship and I don't think he could sell the company. So he stopped too. Again, I was telling a friend this a couple weeks ago. I said, he was asking me, he's like, we were talking about composite style guitars. And he said, do you really think there's a future in composite style guitars? And I said, I have a real big affection for them, But I got to tell you bad news. By the way, he's in the industry and he's a guitar builder. So I should say that too. I said, here's some bad news. Every composite company goes out of business eventually. It's like, it's just how it goes. Now, keep in mind, I'm not trying to doom Aristides or Emerald. Maybe they're the ones, right? They're the ones that make it. But in my experience in this industry, and if you've been in this industry for any time as either a guitar enthusiast or in the industry working it, you know what I'm talking about. The composite material instruments, just eventually the company dies. It just goes away. It's just for some reason they can't get the guitar public to break away from the traditional materials, which is fine. I'm not saying they have to. I'm just explaining why I have an affection for when somebody tries something different, because I feel like it's interesting. At the very least, it's interesting to talk about and look at and talk, and learn about. So when Emerald came out, I was very excited about them. That's why I got an Emerald acoustic, because it kind of finally fit that, that desire. And I got to tell you, out of the three, Rain Song, Composite, and Emerald, I 100% like my Emerald the best. And I really like composite acoustics. And I like the Rain Songs. So, like I said, but Emerald. And so if you're like me and you want a composite acoustic guitar, and you're looking at those kind of expensive guitars, the Emerald, I still cannot recommend it enough, as I really, really enjoy it. So, mine's still sitting. It's right there in the corner. You can't see it. If I could turn this camera in a little bit, you can kind of see it maybe. There you go. There it is. See? So it's right there. So let's turn this stuff and break things. Okay. So there you go. Yeah, David says even Ovations had their ups and downs. Absolutely. If you want next week, we could do, anytime you guys want to do stuff, I'll talk about this. We could go into like cool little sections of telling the stories about what happened with Ovation, and why Ovation ended up stripped. They were stripped to death. They were destroyed by in fact, this is a teaser. I've never done a teaser. This is like a real TV show where I'm like, next week on Know Your Gear podcast, right? I'll be like, we'll find the answer to how Fender actually destroyed Ovation. That's actually true. So that's a teaser, but it's a true teaser. That's who destroyed Ovation. And I can tell you guys the story of how it happened. It's actually a really crazy, but interesting story that involves Guild, Tacoma, Hamer, Fender, technically in a weird way, DeArmond, SWR. I mean, it's crazy how it happened, but that's what happened. So that's really what killed the Ovation that people knew. And the iteration of Ovation today, I think, is really cool, but it's a different version of what most of you who know Ovation grew up with. And it was, they became a casualty of a situation that we'll tease if you guys want that. And by the way, I'm not going to do it next week unless you guys remind me. So somebody remind me next week if you want to do it. That's your teaser. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. Congratulations to the winners. Thank you guys so much for the moderators for moderating the channel and doing all the cool stuff. As always, you guys have a great weekend. Get some vitamin D, play some guitar, and know your gear.
Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible. The Know Your Gear podcast.